KJ Rose here with me for the Voices of Hope series with Culture Focus magazine to bring us some light and joy during COVID-19 times. So KJ,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about you.
Okay.
You've done some awesome work, and then you have the Rose Effect, which you're going to tell us about.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked with some big celebrities such as Lil Nas X and Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake.
Well, not Christina. They were all the Mickey Mouse Club, but not Christina. I admired her, but
sorry,
no.
my apologies, not Christina.
But Janet. We'll say Janet.
Janet, there we go.
Yes.
And you've trained some of your some singers that did an awesome job and got the wow.
Yeah.
Singing competition. So I'm gonna leave it up to you and tell us more.
Yes. Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm KJ Rose. I'm from Chicago, the South Side of Chicago. I then went to school at FAMU in Tallahassee, Florida. And I would say starting in Chicago is where kind of like this love for music, like when people say that's when I fell in love with hip hop or fell in love with R&B. And so the people that I was listening to were like Stephanie Mills and Anita Baker and Janet and Luther and Phyllis Hyman. So the people with these like very low registered milky voices, I think gave me permission to love my voice, you know, but I never thought, because we come from a very pragmatic environment in Chicago. We are not like, it's not like we go downtown and there's like the Broadway strip, or we don't go to LA and there's the Hollywood Chinese theater, you know, and so we don't have those images all the time. And so they seemed a little bit more inaccessible for me. And so, but I also had like this huge stage fright. So my first musical experience would be in a choir at church. And so I remember just being so afraid to do it. And like one of my biggest arguments with my mom was that I was standing up at doing a solo, but looking like I did not want to be there. And that was like my defense mechanism. And then I moved on to the Soul Children of Chicago. But it wasn't until I got to college and I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And I remember like just all of my sorors just rallying around me and saying, you know, because they would say, we need a singer for this event. And I would be like, okay, well, let me get you a singer. And they were like, no, we want you to do it. So it took me a minute to just kind of like embrace that. And then fast forward to one of my line sisters, Shelly, having a graduation party that John Platt attended. And at the time, Big John was at EMI. Now he is the chairman and CEO of Sony ATV. But they were like, you need to sing for him. And I was like, well, I'm not a clown. I don't just sing. And so, but that was, again, me just being so nervous to do it. And I sang for him. And he knew that I was going to New York to do an internship for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. So there was something about New York that was drawing me there, but I did not have any idea that it would be me in the forefront of a music career. I just thought maybe from Pfizer, I'd work at a record label. That's what I kept thinking, because I worked for Sony, I worked for my sister CJ as an intern. And so I was like, yeah, that's where I think my musical skill sets would be best served. And so once I got to New York, he had set me up with some management that really honed my skills. It was First Artist Management, Dave Nelson and Erskine Isaac in New York, who saw something in me. And they just, and that's first, I think, when I realized that no matter where you are in terms of your development into something or development in something, it's the repetition, it's the repeat, it's the constant going over and over that gives you the not even aptitude, the expertise that you need to really do it in a way that you feel comfortable and in a way that does not just make you feel debilitated. And so once I started working with them, I said, well, you know, I got to do something that really just shocks my system. And it's funny because I shock systems now, but then I was shocking my own system and I jumped on the Apollo. I was like, well, I got to do the Apollo. Like, that's like the ultimate. If you're going to shock your system, do the Apollo. So I sang there, and I remember the first time I won, I sang an Anita Baker song. The second time, I remember I got booed. And I knew why I got booed. I knew it. I knew it was because the girl after me had brought an entire busload of people there to see her. And, you know, I was not equipped with a busload of people. So all of her people, like, they gave everybody just a nice little applause, all 6 people. When it came to me, they booed me, and then they cheered for her because she was right after me. But that gave me like, it made me tough. Like, it gave me armor. It made me figure out, you know, are you just kind of gliding on this path because, you know, it is, people have been planted in your life that seem to rally for it? Or is it something you're rallying for yourself? And I had to figure that out. Like when nobody else is there to push you or encourage you and you're standing there in the midst of boos. I remember Bow-Legged Lou from Full Force was the host, and he turned to me and he was like, this is entertainment. Like, do not get, discouraged. Like, you got to keep going. And so in that moment, it was like, am I going to let these people, this audience, be the deciding factor for the rest of my journey? Or am I going to take this and just make it better? And so
that's why I have a question right here.
Okay.
Because this is where most people decide, I think it's a breaking point in the entertainment industry,
right.
The fear of being booed, the fear of being rejected. And especially, I'm also in Chicago, so I know, I know the Southside community, I know the communities, I know how tough it is to make it from poverty level or even mid-level, even any level. There's always that fear of I'm going to be rejected, I'm not good enough. And you did it, and you overcame it. So tell us, give us that advice, and for others who
how to overcome it.
Right.
I believe that it was figuring out what other skill sets you have, what other characteristics you have, until people can see your talent. And so, I will always accredit going to FAMU and being in the business program and being in a professional development program as well, where you had to be persistent, you had to be tenacious. So it is, number one, identifying what your force is, and understanding that that's the thing that's going to take you. So my force was being relentless. My force was energy. I knew that you might be able to outsing me, but you can't outwork me. I knew that if you were saying no, then you weren't the person I should be talking to. And I think it was also just honoring the many spaces that I was in. So I worked for Clive Davis. I watched him every day, make new phone calls, create new challenges for himself to make sure that he never got comfortable in the trajectory of an artist. If they were number one, then he wanted them to stay number one. Then he wanted the next album to be number one. So he never got comfortable in his past laurels. And then I think most importantly for me, it was not taking things personally. I think for new artists, because we don't have enough in our toolkits yet, we don't have anything in our wheelhouse that has given us a reference point for when challenges arise, how to deal with them, And so for me, I would say my biggest moment came when I sang with Heavy D. And number one, it was showing up, right? Because I got the call at 11:30 p.m. and I went from Brooklyn to Midtown. I didn't know who it was, but I kept saying yes. And a lot of times we think that we're waiting for the big yes, but if we show up, it can be a big yes, but still say yes to the small things as well. And so when I got there, it was heavy, but I didn't know who it would be. I just knew that I wanted to get better. And in order to do that, I had to keep putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I had to keep saying yes, whether the opportunity seemed like it was going to be on a large stage or a smaller one. And so with Heavy, I ended up being invited to be in the video in LA. And when I got here, the kind of powers that be were like, well, we got nothing for you. There's nothing for you to do in this video. And I was like, well, how can that be? Like, I flew from New York. And I was in my feelings because it wasn't like I was down the street. Like, I flew from New York to LA and I'm on the Universal lot. It's my first time in LA, only to be turned around. And so then 2 weeks later, I get a call to come and do the remix for the same song, same artist. And initially my feelings were like, no, I'm good. Right? Because that's ego, that's feeling, that is, you did something to me. That is, you rejected me. And what I realized was that it had nothing to do with me. I was merely just a casualty of whatever bureaucracy, political things were happening behind the scenes. And for me to say no in the beginning of my career would have limited my opportunities for people to see me, the visibility, the exposure. And so I often think like where my no would have led. You know what I mean? It's like, I know where I am now. I know what a yes can do. I know what a no can do, And so it's like it's understanding that most times people don't know you well enough to reject you.
Exactly. And that is so awesome, spot on, because I think what most people don't realize is that showing up is enough. All we have to do is just show up and keep showing up until the opportunity comes up and it opens doors. And I know for many, no matter what community they come from, what city, what nationality, the stumbling block is always, I'm not good enough, or what if they say no?
Right.
Or it's just there's always these excuses. But your story is an example that you can make it no matter where you come from.
No matter where you come from.
and you just got to work through it. And so what was it like working with these big celebrities when you got on that level and you were able to show them the power in you and what you can do?
You know, it's interesting because when I worked with, so my first big tour was all the background. So it was Heavy D, and then it was Biggie and AZ, A Plus, and Dead Prez. And so it was being in the studio with them. In my mind, I was still like, oh, I'm still a student. You know, I'm a student in this. Like, I'm learning from behind the scenes, right? So it's too late when you're already on stage and people are just looking at you. But it's honoring those opportunities that you and the work that you put in behind the scenes, because that will serve you when it's time to get in front of the people. Because I often think that we spend so much time on the getting discovered that if it happened tomorrow, would we be prepared? So it's the preparation, and God sees the preparation. And I feel like, you know, the opportunities will be drawn to you when you have exhausted every area of being prepared that you possibly can. And so I would say, you know, doing the background was such a great training ground. And my first tour came about by showing up to a studio with a friend, Eric Payton, and Kelly Price was there. And I never sang for Kelly, but a week later, she put me on tour with Puff. And so I ended up on this 3-month tour with Puff. But then I still wasn't confident all the way with like leaving my 9 to 5. I was still working at Pfizer. I was still by day in corporate compensation. And then by night I was, you know, in some studio or singing some open mic with Carl Thomas, who's my brother from Chicago. And so right after, so I remember like having a moment where I said, I'm not giving 100% to any one thing. Like, I'm not exceptional at anything because I've not given all of myself to any one thing. And so I knew I wasn't trying to move up at the company, and I knew I wanted more progress in my career. So I gave my 2-week notice. I didn't have any job, you know, waiting for me. I just knew that I had to at least take a leap, you know, and a lot of times we want other people to take chances on us. Meanwhile, we wouldn't take the same chances on ourselves. You know, so if you're asking someone else to approve, what have you done to pre-approve? What chances have you taken to bet on yourself, more importantly? Because people want to align with people that they know would take the same risk for themselves that you want them to take on you. And so I remember giving my 2-week notice period and getting a call from a girl named Janah, who was a fellow singer, who said, hey, do you want to go on tour with Puff overseas? And so when I look at these opportunities that did not come from auditioning, right? So it's like somehow I put in enough work for my reputation, whether that and I wouldn't say reputation of being the greatest singer, but sometimes it's your reputation on is the work ethic there? Are they professional? You know, do they show up on time?
Exactly. And you know what? This is so key because there's so many singers and actors that you see on TV that you're like, okay, they're good, but they're not so great. But it's their work ethic. One of them is J-Lo, who's known for her work ethic, not as much for her singing and acting, but it's her work ethic. So work ethic is key here. Because
it is. People will hire you for that.
It's not
you
talent.
And that's the thing. It's like figure out what else you have besides the talent, right? Because there are a lot of talented people. But there are not a lot of people that have the level of patience, that have the level of work ethic, that have a savvy to be amidst these celebrities and still know how to like carry themselves. People want to hire people that will not crash their projects. You know what I mean? Like, how do you react in the midst of crowds? How are you with fans? Are you kind? Do you wear this thing like somebody owes you something? So it's your attitude. Like, are you in a constant state of gratitude? Do you walk into the rehearsal like, you know, they should be happy you're there? It's all those things that come before, you know, you being able to exhibit and showcase the talent that you have. And so I believe that.
I have to say one thing you do have, from what I've seen, is energy. So when I saw the video of you training Little Max and Miley Cyrus's dad, Billy Cyrus, for that awesome song that my daughter is such a fan of. So much energy, and he was so excited to work with you. So for us, the average folks, we're like, okay, we know that we need to be trained, but celebrities need to be trained as well. So how do you train a celebrity like you did with Little Nas X? So you get on that level where they are one with the audience. And
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to tell you. I just felt like I was about to back. Okay, training a celebrity. You know, I think that I just look at them as people that love performing, people that have a gift and love the art of performing, because otherwise I cannot do my job if so I have to be aware of their past successes and status. But if they've come to me, it means that they want to go higher, you know? And so I take into consideration what they've already accomplished. I make sure that they know I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to just expand you beyond whatever your perceived capacity is. And I meet them where they are, you know? So of course I have my entire like curriculum based on what I've observed on them. But at the same time, I am ready to abandon it if they require something different. That could be like they need to talk for an hour, you know, because you never know what they encountered before they got to you. And so even when I look at working with Nas as we were preparing for the Grammys, Nas came in to do a spot with Lil Nas X, and I was just like, oh my Lord, what is happening around here? And so initially I was like everybody else, like, okay, Nas is in the building. Nas is in the building. And then it was so funny because I was like, okay, shake that off, Kay. Like we're in rehearsal so that we can have the best Grammy performance ever. And I remember like, all right, Nas, this is what I need. When you come out here, I need you to blah, blah, blah. I need you to meet him here. And then I need you to meet in the center. Then I need you to blah, blah. And then I remember holding his shoulder and like pushing it down and requiring him to give me more energy. And like Lil Nas got so like afraid. He was like, KJ. And I was like, I got this, you know? And it was just so funny because he was like, I think take it easy on him. I was like, no, he knows what it is. And I was just so grateful that he was open to my level of wild behavior and wild coaching. He was open for it, but I respected who he was as an artist first. You know, it's always with the respect. And then they respect me in saying, hey, maybe there is something I can get out of this. And I appreciate that. So I think it's a mutual respect for everyone's kind of like training and everyone's backstory that you have. And so working with Billy Ray, I remember being at the video shoot and I wasn't giving Billy any notes, right? He didn't hire me. I'm like, you know, he'd be like, KJ, I've been in this since you were born, before you were born. So I was like, you know, he'd be in the car with Lil Nas. I'd be like, Lil Nas, so next time I need you to da 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 da. And I remember Billy saying, well, what about me, KJ? I'd like to be coached. Give me something. And I was like, say no more. I got you. And I'll never forget, like, I like rode him. I was like, more, Billy, tell me more. And the next day he came into rehearsal. He said, I had nightmares about you. I said, that's the best compliment anybody can give a girl like me. Thank you. So it's been really, you know, just joy, just complete joy being able to kind of pour in to artists, even, you know, working with the Lumineers. So the day we finished, I think the Grammys were on a Sunday. On Monday, I flew to North Carolina to work with the Lumineers. And
that's awesome.
I remember being so like not feeling well, but I was like, I got to push through. Like things that scare me are things that I try to lean into, you know, and it was, there's one of me, there's several group members of the group, and I have a little bit of time, you know? And so I said, how can I be effective, but not totally scare them so that 2 days later when they're on stage, they feel totally discombobulated. So it was like finding that balance between acknowledging what they already had, giving a little bit, pouring a little bit into them so that they can make some adjustments that would not completely take them out of their element when they get on stage. And so that was like one of my, you know, most memorable jobs as well, because I'm not worked with a group of that size. And we're all grown. I work with a group of younger girls, but never like grown men and a grown woman, you know, all of
and that's exactly what I want to point out to the audience, is that you don't only work with celebrities, you work with anybody. And you train little young, bigger girls, females.
It does not matter. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. As long as there's an interest and desire to work with you, because you've done an incredible job. When it was Christina Aguilera that made that comment, right, for one of your trainees, or was it Gwen Stefani? Gwen Stefani.
Yes.
Was so excited, and she was wowed by the performance of one of the girls to work with.
Zoey Grace. Yep, that was Zoey. Yeah, that was and you know, I got a call from Farnsworth, and Farnsworth had been working with Bad Boy forever, and you know, we came up together in Bad Boy, and so he said, hey, I got this artist there in Tennessee, and so we started our lessons just on Skype. And then as she got closer, we were like, okay, this is getting serious. I need to fly to Tennessee now. We need the in-person training. And then she ended up here for the blind auditions. And then we still did a little bit more coaching via Skype. And so, yeah, like I just love working with people that just, they have a force, they know what it is, and they just want to totally maximize and occupy all of their space in it, right? And those, I feel like once people understand what winning is for them, then they're no longer like searching on the validation. It is, I know what my strengths are, I know where I could get a little better, and I just want to work on that. And so I am just, because I'm an artist, you know, I'm a performance artist. I started out as a vocal artist, but I speak the language of an artist. I have the heart of an artist. I know what it feels like to have this thing in your body that you want to get out, but you feel that there are blocks, you know, in your life. And so that's really why I wrote the book, The Rose Effect, which was to help people to reconcile their internal narrative. Like, what do you think about yourself? Because your external expression is really, it's just a, it tells how your heart it tells the condition of your heart, you know? And so it's my job is to help you to reconcile that, resolve that. What do you think about yourself? What do you offer? Why you? Why should we, you know, pay you attention? What attention have you paid yourself? What is it that you believe your messaging is? So all those things, you know? And so again, performance is a reveal of the condition of your heart. And so if that is where you are comfortable with and where you feel strong in, then the audience will connect with that. But it's hard to connect with someone that is unsure, uncertain of what their gift is, of what they have to offer, you know, because then you're just like, well, if you don't know, I don't know.
and that is so true. And you've left such a mark in the book that you're offering. The Rose Effect is something
Yes.
awesome that anyone can get and anyone can find their little tips.
Yes.
And inspirations and you know, contact you
Yes.
as well. What I think the audience wants to know and what I want to know is what tips can you give us now during COVID-19? Because now it's a different time. The music industry is changing, Hollywood's changing because social distancing, quarantine. So how can artists believe in themselves more now and have hope and desire to continue working in the industry when currently the industry is difficult to work in?
Yep. So I would say, you know, these are applicable things. I would say, number one, identify your force, like write it down. You could have more than one, because that's what's going to lead you to completing whatever you believe your divine assignment is. Number two, write down 5 things, ideas, songs, projects that you have left incomplete, the things that you've abandoned, the things that people said, you know, that's all right. The things that you lost hope in, go grab them and then choose one to complete. It's all about progress right now. And it's the progress that you deem to be relevant, because we're relevant right now, right? And so I think a lot of times we're waiting for other people to deem us relevant, to qualify us. So it's getting in tune with what it is that you currently have, because that's all you need. You're already equipped with what you have. I would then say you should be using every outlet possible, right? The people that you didn't think wanted to hear from you, create an email. You should be sending it to them. The outlets that, you know, before probably wouldn't give you a chance, they got a lot of time on their hands. Reach out to them. Use your live chats. Utilize your network, whether that's a college network, whether that's your family network. Start there. Do shows, monologues, poems. You know, do something with what you have right now, because this is the time where people are a little bit more still and they can pay attention to you. So I would say that this is, you know, and, you know, not taking out of consideration that it's painful. We are in a very painful climate at this time where people have lost lives. But I say that if you're still here, you have a contribution to make, and you should spend time, I don't like to use the word perfecting, strengthening that. Right? Strengthening whatever you believe your gift is. The repetition, the art of repetition is important. So again, it is identifying your force. It is going back to those things that you've abandoned, putting the work into it, understanding that it's the repetition that will make you better. Take a course, you know, study the people that you admire right now. So you have exactly what you need to come out of this thing even stronger. Right? So it's really giving your time. First of all, it's qualifying yourself. It's knowing that if it was put on your heart, then you have the ability to complete it. And so that is the advice that I would give to anyone. And it starts with you having hope, you believing in yourself. You having the faith to know that if you don't complete your assignment, then it could stop someone else being blessed by you. It is walking and getting to a point where you are confident enough to know that you are the solution to somebody. I don't care if it's one person. What you have is a solution to somebody, to that one person.
Wow, I gotta say, it's like just chills. I'm serious. Like, I'm just like taking it in. I'm like, it's just so inspiring. Oh my God.
Amen. Amen.
I'm like, amen.
Yeah.
And so personally, how have you coped? I mean, you gave such an awesome advice, but personally, have you had any challenges coping currently in social distancing quarantine? Has it affected you negatively in some way?
I would say that, early on when I was trying to put out, because I had been working on the book for like 2 years, but it was the vacillating between believing that I should be the messenger for this thing and believing that this wasn't my assignment. And so there were moments where, I would just kind of like abandon it myself, and I would have to come back to it. And I remember trying to get the book on Amazon, and it kept being rejected because the dimensions weren't correct. And I remember just breaking down. And I think that the book has been such a beautiful distraction, but also a focus, because there was one moment I said, who wants to read another book during a time like this? And then I had to remember that we can all do something, that pours a little bit of joy to someone else. Like, we all have something to contribute, to at least uplift. And this was my way. I felt like God was saying, this was my way of making my contribution to uplift people that may be sitting home and needed to just have a more of a position of self-starting and they need to be encouraged. And so I remember like it being rejected, and I was talking to my marketing people, St. Miles, and they kept returning like texts like, nope, it's not working, blah. And I just said, well, guys, I don't really know what else to do. Thank you for your help. And I remember like, just bawling and then going out to the balcony, and right outside my windows are these big posters of Lupita and Michael B. Jordan. And they're like these advertisements. And I kept looking at both of them, and I was like, okay, they did not get to where they are by giving up, and it's like, that is what, and last night I was watching The Last Dance. Isn't it so good? I was with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and he kept saying, yeah, we got number 6. He said, they can't win until we quit.
Exactly.
And that's what I just want to tell everybody. Defeat cannot be your story until you quit. Fear has no space in your story until you quit. So for me, it was continuing to pivot, and knowing that the pivots don't discount the work you've done. The pivots just mean, hey, you got to make new decisions because you got new information. And so even in this state, I implore people to say, hey, I got to make some pivots. It doesn't discount what I've done, but I'm in a new place. The world is in a new place. I got new information. I got to make a pivot, and so just knowing that pivots are necessary. Pivots do not take away from what you've done. They don't say that you failed. Pivots say that you're quite intelligent to recognize and assess when you need to make some new moves and to adjust yourself. And so
I have to say hallelujah to that, because it feels good to hear it from you. It feels good for the audience to hear it from you, because I'm also writing a book, and I know how hard it is, and I have to tell you, congratulations for completing it and putting it out there.
Thank
because
you.
there's so many times I'm like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Maybe it's not good enough.
Yes.
Voice constantly repeating on like a repeat, but then you're like,
yes,
go help somebody. So
and complete the task. There is joy, and you got to figure out what winning is to you. And I was talking to my girl, Moo Fresh, and we were talking about how people would ask me, like, how's the book doing? What are the numbers? And I was just like, dang, I just finished it. And then she said, a lot of times we can steal our own joy, but know that there is victory in the completion of whatever that thing is. Your job is not to figure out where it will land. Your job is to complete the task and trust it will land safely.
And I'm hoping this in because I needed to hear this.
Yes, just complete it.
I want the audience to hear something from your book. So is there something that you can read us from your book so we get excited
Okay, yes. I'm going to read a few of the seeds of victory. This is what it looks like. Seeds of, can you even see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't outsource your win. Pre-approve your, let me say it again. Don't outsource your win. Pre-approve yourself. Stop putting it in the hands of everybody else. Well, once so-and-so does this, then it'll put me in a better position. Well, when so-and-so calls me back, then I'll really be able to do what I need to do. You're giving it to somebody else. You're allowing them to decide what your fate is. Don't wait to access the energy in the room. Bring your own, and not just the energy that, we walk into, like when we're let out of this situation, not just walking into the offices and into the auditions, but now when you turn your camera on, don't wait to figure out if people are giving you back energy. Don't wait to get 30 people that are tuning in. Don't wait for people to comment. Bring your own energy. People will find you. Show up and be present. No one can show up for you, and no one can show up like you. What you will put here to contribute, no one else can do. It just won't get done. Identify and abide in your force. Once you realize what's that thing, when I talk about force, I'm talking about that thing that makes you come alive. The characteristic about you that you don't ask permission to be or to do or to give. The thing that makes you feel the most powerful. That is your force. And your force can be kindness. Your force can be compassion, generosity, whatever you deem to be what makes you that distinctive, that victorious person. No matter what, make it count. Your point of view, your delivery, your space, and your gift. If you're going to show up, then you might as well make it count. If you're going to share with somebody what your gift is, then don't do it half-heartedly. Do it wholeheartedly. Know that you're doing it because you've already been qualified for it. You're not asking their permission to do it. Enter every room knowing that you are the solution. You are the yes. When you turn on your cameras and you do any type of performances, know that someone is sitting on the other side and they were waiting for what you have to offer. That's how you have to think. But you can only get there when you've given yourself the moments needed to really just dig into that gift, the repetition needed to feel comfortable, that you have equipped yourself with the tools necessary to be confident. Confidence don't just show up for everybody. Don't dismiss anyone. Stay humble, stay open. My Britney Spears gig did not come from the executive that I was trying to hunt down. It came from the assistant. That every time I would call over the month, I would always say hi to him, but I never took a moment to say, now what's going on in your life? He was the one and I finally said, oh, he gave me, his story, what was happening in his life. And then he asked me, and I was like, I've been trying to get with Britney Spears, but we're working on it. He was like, oh, my friend is the tour manager. His friend then sent it to the music director. And before I know it, I was lightly stalking the music director. So don't dismiss anyone. Know that, people with fancy titles are great. And then people that have not gotten the fancy title, but they do the fancy work are great too, And then finally, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So stop waiting for people to say that you're relevant and you're qualified because you were born that way. Nobody can take that away from you but you. There's no way you should find yourself in mediocrity or feeling average by anyone. You've done it, right? So I say, get it back. Take your power back. Get your courage back to believe that what you have to give, somebody needs.
Wow, KJ, I love your book. We need your book.
Thank you.
You have to read it because what's in it is it's gold, it's priceless, and I think anyone, entertainment industry or not, can benefit from your words of wisdom and encouragement. That was awesome.
Thank you. Well, it's on Amazon right now.
That's what I was going to ask you. Where can we buy it, and where is it available? And also, how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Okay, so the book is on Amazon. It's both in ebook and paperback. My Instagram is KJ Rose Effect, as well as my Twitter. My TikTok is Rose Effect 20 because Rose Effect was taken. And my Facebook is Kiana KJ Rose Henson, as well as my LinkedIn. So KJ Rose Effect, find me. I want to keep talking. Absolutely,
find KJ and get in touch with her. And one final thing that you want to leave us with, KJ, you gave us so much to take in. What is, I guess, one last thing you want to share with the audience and leave us thinking about or get excited about or something positive?
Well, as I mentioned, I've been so just inspired by The Last Dance on ESPN, by the hunger. And, I love my job because I have enough in my arsenal to pull up someone else that may not have the hunger. But I believe that it is so imperative for you to be hungry for what you do, because not everybody can pull you up. I just love to pull people up, but you've got to get in flight. One of the things that they said about Jordan, a team that was trying to defend them, said it was easy to lock Michael down when he was on the ground because he was invincible. He was untouchable when he was in flight. So I just say to everybody, start working. Like the fear can't get you down, the doubts, the negativity from other people cannot get you down if you're already in flight to soaring. And in flight just means doing something today that gives you a little bit more hope that maybe this thing that you got is vital. This thing that you got is viable, so just get in flight. Do something today that gets you closer to this dream that you have, and I don't care what it is. You could just write one sentence that's closer. So get in the process of winning, get in flight so you can win, and trust that you have exactly what you need right now to do exactly that.
Very powerful words, KJ. You couldn't have left us with a better message. And that was such a pleasure talking to you and getting all the information. Too. And I'm sure the audience loved it. And I just wish you the best of luck. So awesome to talk to a fellow Chicagoan.
Thank you. I know.
Go Chicago.
I miss home. Thank you so much for.
And I hope to see you when you come here in Chicago and get in touch.
We'll make it happen. Yeah, we're definitely going to make it happen.
And meet in person. And can't wait to learn more and see what happens next. And
thanks for you.
And let's stay positive.
Let's stay positive, guys. We are coming out on the other side of this stronger than we've ever been. So I'm with you, and thank you, Nicoletta, for having me, and blessings to everybody. Use what you got to get what you want right now. That's all.
Hey.
My final little spiel. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.